Hello and welcome back to the Welsh Premiership podcast and our preview review show on the Welsh Premiership Cup. Today we'll be looking back at round two of the Welsh Premiership Cup, which safe to say saw a few upsets and a few results that we saw coming as well. So we'll be chatting all about what happened last week and looking forward to next week's fixtures as well. There's some big ties coming up, so we'll be looking ahead to that, seeing what are the interesting matchups there. So first of all, this weekend then there was a Friday night game, and it saw the side that the season before COVID looked like they were going to win the league, Cardiff, travel just down the road to Rodney Parade to face Newport. So Adam, what did you make of that game?
Yeah, I was quite shocked with the result, to be honest. I thought it'd be a tight game, and I said that last week, but fair play to Newport. It was a brilliant win for them, local derby against probably the favourites for the cup as well. So they'll be really happy with that.
Yeah, it was interesting. Obviously, Matt O'Brien's taken over the captaincy for this year. And obviously he normally plays at outside half, but he moved out to 12 for the game with young Will Reid, the Dragons Academy player, coming in. And he actually had a good game, didn't he? I think made all his kicks. But that's obviously, if they're going to move, like play with 2 10s effectively, that's not something you really see in the Premiership that often, is it?
No, and fair play to that Will Reid. He was involved with Wales under-20s in the summer, and he's obviously dropped down to the Premiership to get some valuable game time. And that's what it's all about, really, isn't it? And he's obviously he did well on Friday, and hopefully he can keep it up.
Yeah, moving on then to the second game in the east side of the draw of the Welsh Premiership Cup. And Ebu hosted Pontypridd. Obviously, Pontypridd, massive club, won the league numerous occasions. We did say it was a tight game going into it, and that Ebu might come away with it. But obviously, it was a little bit of a surprise to see Ebu came away 16-6 winners, and they really did dominate Pontypridd for the majority of the game, similar to how they dominated Merthyr away in the previous week. And Ebu now 2 from 2, the only side in the Eastern draw that are 2 from 2. Again, I was really impressed with Lewis Williams again, outside half. We mentioned last week stepping in for Reece Jones was going to be a massive task, but he seems to be more than capable of filling his boots. Up front as well, that front row of Luke Garrett, Dave Whiting and Joe Franchi, the new captain, really strong, really powerful. And then their outside backs as well. Dom Franchi, got to mention, obviously was in our team of the week. He was brilliant. So I think we said it was going to be a tight game, but Ebu really did deserve their victory. And if anything, it probably could have been more to Ebu. I think Ponty really struggled. And then in the final game of the eastern side of the draw, RGC, oh shit, I'm on the wrong one. RGC travelled to Merthyr, wasn't
it? Yeah.
In the final game of the eastern side of the draw, RGC travelled to Merthyr. Tobias, what did you make of that game?
Yeah, it was a really good game, to be fair. Open. Both sides tried to play a bit of rugby. Back and forth, I think both sides took the lead on numerous occasions, but Merthyr came out with the win in the end, 37 points to 29. However, RGC were ahead of the break, 17-15 up. I think Tom Hughes, impressive. RGC centre scoring a couple of tries, but they played the Merthyr. I think second half fight back. I think both wingers got on the score sheet, and I know that Ashley Norton's try was very impressive, 40 metres out, going around the winger. So, but fair play, I think RGC are improving. They've had 2 games start of the season away from home, and I know they're home this weekend, so it'll be good for them back in front of their own fans. But Merthyr first win of the season now on the board as well, so I think both sides be pretty pleased how they played, and RGC be a little bit gutted they didn't come away with a losing bonus point.
Yeah, we spoke last week actually about the new coach, Kerry Jones, might have taken him a little bit of time to bed in with the squad and influence his ideas on the squad. Obviously, they had a big loss in their first game to Cardiff, didn't they? So how far have they come in just that week's period to obviously take Merthyr all the way and obviously nearly win last week?
Oh, fair play to them. They come along a lot. In just a week, like you said, the Cardiff game was a bit unfortunate for them, obviously 60 points. But fair play to them. They played a lot better rugby this weekend. I know they still conceded a few tries and stuff, but the structure and things, they'll come in the next few weeks. But they did improve, and I think they'll improve again, and they'll soon get going and getting a few victories on the board.
Yeah, moving into the western side of the Welsh Premiership Cup then, and Aberavon hosted Swansea. So, Ad, what happened in that game, and what did you make of it?
Yeah, obviously Aberavon came out as winners. I don't think anyone was too surprised with that, but I think Swansea were really competitive. They were winning just before half time, and then they had a yellow card, and Aberavon scored. And when they were down to 14, they conceded the vast majority of their points. I think week on week they'll probably get more and more competitive now, getting more match fit. I think they've got a tough game tomorrow. I think that might be a step too far, but obviously Aberavon, really good side, and yeah, I'm not surprised to see Aberavon a 2 from 2 so far.
Yeah, and then in the next game, Carmarthen Quins fell short against Llandovery. They lost 21-10. From what I hear, it was a very close game, as we expected, really. Obviously, Derby, they were the two outstanding teams, really, behind Cardiff in the season before COVID. And obviously, you had Aberavon up there as well. But yeah, Llandovery come away 21-10 winners. I know we spoke about maybe they would miss Angus O'Brien if he didn't drop down from the Scarlets. But James Garland filled in superbly and just ran the show from 10, and they were very physical up top as well. I know Aris Evans was very happy with how they performed all across the park, really. So last of all then, Bridgend travelled to Parker Scarlets to play Llanelli. Tobias, I know you went to see that game, so what did you make of that?
Yeah, well, I'll be completely honest with you. It wasn't the best game of rugby going, but both sides it was a battle. Do you mean both packs? They played to them. They're physical. I think Llanelli stood up well for a young team, and there was a lot of young Scarlets in there. But yet again, Bridgend away from home, first win of the season. And special mention to Tom Florence, the young Wales under-20s winning on debut. A brilliant finish to score his first try. And yeah, well, it was both sides, took the lead a couple of times, but a few late penalties by Matthew Jones and then a big defensive shift towards the end, won Bridgend game, and it's a positive for them. And then moving on to next week. Yeah,
I know you highlighted Matthew Jones coming back in, didn't you, as sort of a key man for Bridgend. Did he sort of run the ship as well for them?
Yeah, he did. He did what you'd expect of a player of his quality and experience to do. He kicked right into the right areas. He controlled the back line, and then when it was his chance to win them, he slotted his kicks. And to be fair, I think Llanelli, I think the fullback Josh Phillips missed a few kicks, and the game could have easily gone the other way. But maybe the experience and the quality of his goal kicking won Bridgend game.
And I know you were impressed with the Llanelli hooker as well, weren't you? Morgan Mcrae. How did he get on?
I thought he was brilliant, to be honest with you. He's 2 tries. I know one was from the dry maul, another one was on 22, but it was a 40-metre break in there as well. So very, very aggressive ball carrier, but he gets around the park well in defence as well. The only downside of it, he did get yellow carded towards the end of the first half. But again, he's a young player, he'll learn, but they're very impressive for a young boy.
So going into this week's fixtures then, in the Eastern Conference of the Welsh Premiership Cup, Ebbw Vale sit top with 2 wins from 2 on 8 points. Cardiff just below them, level on points with Merthyr with 6 points. Newport below them with 5 points. Pontypridd just below them on 4 points. And RGC then round off the table, having not won a game yet, although they do have their first home game this weekend. In the Western Conference, there's 2 unbeaten sides, Aberavon and Llandovery, but with Aberavon claiming 2 bonus points. They sit at the top of the table. Next up then is Carmarthen Quins on 5 points, just a 1 bonus point victory for them. Bridgend just behind them, 4 points with a win without a bonus point. And then propping up the table then are Llanelli and Swansea, who are both yet to win a game. So this weekend's fixtures, they're all kicking off at 2:30 on Saturday. In the Eastern Conference of the Welsh Premiership Cup, Ebbw Vale host Cardiff at Eugene Cross Park. Now, if we were looking at this game at the start of the season, we probably all would have gone for a Cardiff victory, but Ebbw 2 from 2, top of the table. They've made a few changes. Jordan Thomas has come in on the wing, who was really impressive during pre-season. They signed him from Pontypool the season of COVID. So he's come in for Dan Haymond with David Howells switching to fullback. Up front, it's a pretty similar team. The front row of Whiting, Franchi, and Garrett keep their place. And then for Cardiff, they got a lot of Cardiff Rugby academy players in and Cardiff Rugby players in, like the scrum half Jamie Hill, and second row Sean Moore as well. So they've gone for a very talented team. Dropped quite a few players. No Morgan Allen this week, the captain. Tom Haberfield misses out. I'm presuming he's still injured. Jack Maynard dropped to the bench as well. Boys, what do you make of Cardiff so far this season, and what do you expect will happen in that game?
Yeah, well, obviously they had a really good win to start off with, and they'd be disappointed after last week. I really think they'd be looking to prove a point this week, try and get a win, prove a point. I think it'd be a really tight game, to be fair. No one likes going up to Eugene Cross Park, especially if the weather's bad, like it will be tomorrow. So I'm expecting a real scrappy game, a real physical game, but I think Cardiff will probably edge it.
Yeah, I think like I said, it'll be a tight game, and I'll be interested to see how the Cardiff youngsters handle it. We said the weather's not going to be very good. We know no one likes going Ebu away as it is, and the way Ebu started this season, it wouldn't surprise me if Ebu did come away with a win tomorrow.
Yeah, it's a very interesting game, isn't it? Obviously, it's probably not the game if you're dropping down from the regional game to try and improve your fitness and get some game time. That's probably not the game you want to be dropped into, really, is it? Away Eugene Cross in the rain. But it'll be a really interesting encounter. Ebu have definitely tried to play some more expansive rugby this season, which is evident with the players they've signed in the backs. But I think tomorrow might just be a day to keep it up the jumper and test out their Cardiff forwards pack. And we know that Ebu pack themselves are really strong, really physical. A lot of them have been about in the Premiership for a long time. So I think that's probably what will be the difference. And I would put my money on an Ebu win tomorrow. Moving on then to the second game in the Eastern Conference, and Pontypridd host Merthyr in a big derby. So what do you think of that game?
Yeah, again, it's going to be a really tight one. Obviously, Ponty will be disappointed after last week at home at Sardis Road. Bit of a local derby as well, I suppose. Yeah, they'll be really up for it. Made a few changes this week, but you know what you're going to get with Merthyr as well, coached by the Chief, going back to Sardis Road. So, yes, it's a mouth-watering clash, really, isn't it? If I had to pick a winner, I'd probably say Ponty, purely because they're at Sardis Road with their loyal fans behind them, and I think that'll get them over the line.
Yeah, again, I think I'd go a Ponty win this weekend. They'll want to bounce back, and they'll be majorly disappointed, obviously, the loss against Ebu last week. I think it'll be a close game again. Don't get me wrong, I think Merthyr will be strong. But back at Sardis, in front of their home fans, I think Ponty will edge her.
Yeah, I think Ponty really struggled last week against Ebervale. And obviously Merthyr have had their problems as well. Both sides have got a lot to prove because both sides really have been quite underwhelming in their first two games. Obviously, Merthyr managed to come away with the win last weekend, but against an RGC that conceded 60 to Cardiff, RGC team that conceded 60 to Cardiff. So I think it's quite hard to measure where both of the teams are at. And I think that game tomorrow is a really big clash, and it will be massive in sort of both teams measuring how their Premiership Cup is going. Last game then this weekend in the East Conference, Newport are the first team this season to head up to Iris Park and play RGC. So what do you make of that game?
Yeah, you probably have to put Newport down as favourites. They're coming off the back of a really good win. Obviously, RGC haven't started the best, have they? But RGC at home are a complete different proposition, I think. They've got their loyal fans behind them. They really get, they get good crowds as well. First home game, they'll be looking to prove a point. I think they'll improve again this week, but I think Newport will probably have too much of them.
Yeah, like we said early on, RGC, they're on the up. They're improving, and they improved a lot last week and they'll have a point to prove this weekend. You know, they'll have their fans there now, probably for the first time this season. And they come up against a good Newport side who are going to be on a high, obviously, from the win over Cardiff last week. But I do think it'll be tighter than a lot of people think. I think RGC will be there or thereabouts come 80 minutes, but maybe, you know, the way Newport played the opening 2 games, I think they probably will edge it, but it wouldn't shock me to see RGC giving them a really tight game.
Yeah, obviously we spoke about that Will Reid and Matt O'Brien 10-12 axis with two 10s basically on the pitch. Do you think that'll be decisive in that game with the weather obviously due to be not great? Do you think it'll be important for them to have their 2 10s and their kicking game?
Yeah, definitely. You know, with the weather like this, you don't want to be running the ball, carrying the ball all day long. Your kickers are obviously going to come into the game, and having 2 there, and the experience of O'Brien as well, it will help, and that'll be a big thing tomorrow.
In the Western Conference then, Bridgend host unbeaten Aberavon. Tobias, I know you're going to be covering that game with Luke Hawkins for us. So what are your thoughts on how that game will go?
Yeah, obviously, if you look at it on paper, I think Aberavon are going into the game as favourites. You know, coming off 2 wins, and I think they haven't made any changes this week. They're a pretty strong side. But Bridgend then coming off back of a win last week, you know, they're going to be confident and it's something to build on now. You know, it's a derby. I know both sides be up for it. There's been quite a few changes in the Bridgend side, which some I'm shocked to see, some you'd understand. Like halfbacks, I thought did good last week, but they both changed. You know, Jamie Murphy's back in the 10 and Chris Williams in the scrum half. There's a few players missing then. I know Kai Lewis, tight head about 80 minutes last week. He was the only tight head in the squad. He's away this week, as well as Ed Howley at fullbacks. There's a few missing for Bridgend, which are big, important players for them, so they could struggle. But they'll be up for it. And I think they'll give Aberavon the game, but I'd still back, you know, the Aberavon side is very strong. And I think I would back Aberavon there.
Yeah, I think maybe the crucial part in that game, we mentioned how strong Aberavon set piece has been in the first 2 weeks. Obviously, last week with Reece Fawcett will be up against the Bridgend, whoever plays tight end for Bridgend. So do you think they might be in for a long day in the scrum?
Yeah, I think that'll be the key battle, to be completely honest with you. I know, I think Curtis Hicks is in a tight head for Bridgend, and I think set piece is bound to be vital, especially like we've mentioned already. The weather tomorrow is not going to be a running rugby sort of day. It's going to be, you know, set piece, penalties, discipline is going to be crucial tomorrow, and I think that could be where the game is won or lost.
Yeah. And then moving on to the second game in the Western Conference, Llandovery hosting Ethley. Llandovery, another unbeaten team in the Western Conference, and I think they'll be fully expecting another victory against Llanelli this weekend. Llanelli, we've probably been a little bit surprised. They've actually been competitive in both games, haven't they? So we wouldn't be surprised to see them be competitive again, but I think Llandovery will just be too strong. Johan Hughes, the outside half, I know, has been praised a lot. But they are a really young side, Llanelli, and maybe they are just a little bit too far, not experienced enough at the moment. Moving on to the final game of the weekend then, and sees Swansea host Carmarthen Quins. What do you make of that game?
Yeah, I think it'll be a lot closer than people think, actually. Swansea have been really competitive. You know, they've probably had 2 of the toughest games to start off with in Llandovery and Aberavon away. And, you know, you look at Swansea's pack, you know, they've got a really big pack, and they've got, they had that Will Hickey starting for them last week, who has joined the Ospreys from Leinster. So, you know, the weather's not meant to be great, so it'll be a tight, scrappy, physical game, you'd have thought. And Swansea being at home, first home game in 18 months with a big pack, I wouldn't be too surprised if Swansea actually turned them over. That could come back to bite me, but I wouldn't be too surprised at all.
Yeah, I know there's been a lot of change in the Carmarthen squad, hasn't there? Because Jack Price starting for the Scarlets this weekend, I believe. So Hayden Pugh, obviously an old guest of the podcast, is back in the second row for them. which is obviously massive. Like we know what Pugh brings around the park in terms of his leadership, but in terms of his just physical presence as well. Obviously, very different ends of the spectrum. Him and Jack Price. In Jack Price, you have a young, like hungry, someone that's trying to establish himself as a regional player. But Pugh will be just as hungry. That's just in his nature, really, isn't it? And a few other positions as well. Like I know Torin Myhill, who was scoring tries for fun before COVID. He's come in for Reece Lawrence at hooker. Nick Cudd starting in the back row as well. So they really do have quality all over the pitch, don't they? Especially in the pack.
Yeah, and like you mentioned, those three players coming in, the experience they bring as well. Especially, they play away from home against a pretty young Swansea side in not the best conditions. Three experienced forwards like that, they're bound to come in crucial and show why they've been in the Premiership for so long and playing at pro level like in Nick Cudd's place.
Yeah. And then obviously in the backs, then you've got the players that don't normally make the headlines, but they're just as important. Like Josh Backup, the 10, massive cog in their machine. Players like that, they're massively important for them.
Yeah, and they'll be looking to prove a point as well. They lost at home last week in their derby. So, yeah, they will be looking to bounce back. But I think it'll be a close game. I really do.
Yeah, so if you want to keep updated on that game through the weekend, Adam here will be at the Swansea v Carmarthen Quins game, providing live updates and a match report for that game. Tobias and Luke will be at Bridgend v Aberavon, doing the same match updates and a match report. And Zach Johnson-Pion will be at Pontypridd v Merthyr. So thanks for watching. Hope you have a great weekend enjoying the rugby, and see you at this time next week for the next preview review show. Thank you and goodbye.